New alarming concerns over care at a mental health hospital.
It was wrong. There's nothing you can say. Nothing's going to make that better.
New questions over what went on at Clearview Behavioral Health.
It's just kind of, it's another part of the puzzle, isn't it?
New emails exposing a so-called smoking gun against the facility.
Did you ever expect to see this kind of information in an email?
2 years ago, a series of reports by Denver 7 Investigates led the state to shut down Clearview Behavioral Health in Johnstown.
And now Chief Investigator Tony Kowaleski asking more tough questions about emails attorneys don't want you to see.
Surprised you received these emails?
Shocked.
Visually, it's nothing more than words on paper.
Your reaction to this? Your husband lost his life in that facility.
Why didn't he lose his license?
In reality, they are two emails authored by a doctor exposing critical care questions about what went on inside this Johnstown mental health hospital.
My reaction was, wow, this is some pretty powerful evidence. I called it a smoking gun.
Attorney Jay Rynan received the emails provided by the doctor's attorneys. They are telling public records and a key part of his lawsuit against the stakeholders connected to Clearview Behavioral Health.
We begin, though, with breaking news. The state is shutting down a Johnstown mental health facility amid concerns of patients being mistreated.
Prior to the state's action back in 2020, patients, family members, and insiders trusted Denver 7 to expose what they described as the secrets inside the privately owned mental health hospital.
People need to know what goes on inside those walls.
You can't treat people the way that they treat people. People are not animals. People are not paychecks.
They're paying for therapy. They're paying to get better, and we're not helping them get better.
It shouldn't take the news media to make something happen.
I think that it was your reporting that started all this into play.
And now perhaps the most significant development of all, this email written in 2019, a few weeks after 5 different critical reports by Denver 7 Investigates. It was sent by a psychiatrist responsible for patient care at Clearview.
I've been admitting to Clearview for the past 2 years without seeing a single patient.
Rynan is reading the words of Clearview psychiatrist Sohail Punjwani. By all indications, the doctor is raising concerns about his role at the hospital, about the risks he's taking. The email concludes, "I am doing all this work at Clearview with not a single clinical visit to my credit for 2 years. Just stress and risk of exposure of my name to media and risk to my license."
He's writing to his boss complaining about having to sign all of these legal documents and do all of these care items without actually seeing patients there.
Is that allowed?
Our experts say that it's not.
And this public court filing also cites another email claiming Dr. Punjwani saw 1,413 patients in a single month, described in the document as an enormous patient load.
Do you know the name Dr. Punjwani?
Oh, for sure. Never seen him. Allegedly lives in Florida.
This mental health tech spent 6 months working at Clearview. He asked us to disguise his identity because he feared retaliation. He confirmed multiple times what Dr. Punjwani put in writing.
Punjwani I've never seen at the hospital.
And just a few days after that first email where he admitted never seeing patients, Dr. Punjwani sends another troubling and illuminating email.
I look at this email and I think, gosh, I mean, that's a pretty powerful statement for him to make, that I may have ordered the medications for Mr. Hatay that resulted in his death.
In fact, that email followed this story by Denver 7 Investigates, raising questions about the death of 47-year-old Tibor Hatay at Clearview.
They found him not breathing.
She was working inside the day the father of 2 died. She feared retaliation and also asked us to disguise her identity.
You watched this man die. Do you wonder if it could have been prevented?
Every day.
In his email, again to his employer, Dr. Punjwani included a link to that Denver 7 report. He writes, "Here's a new article specifically inciting as-needed medication ordered by doctors that killed the patient." Punjwani continued, "Medication probably ordered by me on call who never saw the patient. The sentence ends with several exclamation points.
What's that say to you?
That he knows he's responsible.
Tibor was Jenny Hattay's husband and the father of their 2 children.
Why do you think he wrote this email?
Because his conscience is screaming at him.
Tibor's wife shared this chilling video diary.
My pledge is to take better and better care of myself.
Her husband made the recordings just 4 days before his death.
I hate that I can die anytime.
Does Dr. Poonjwani owe you and your kids an explanation?
Absolutely.
Hi, how can I help you?
Hi, Tony Kowaleski here from Denver 7, trying to reach Dr. Poonjwani.
All right, door's open.
Hoping to get answers, we traveled to Colorado Springs and a facility known to employ the author of the emails now in question.
Hi, how are you?
I'm doing well.
Once inside, the facility sent out the director of compliance.
Trying to reach out to Dr. Poonjwani. Is he here today?
He is not here currently. What would you like to talk to him about?
We want to talk to him about some public records.
Okay.
Emails he sent in connection with Clearview.
Okay. So we're not associated with Clearview as they've closed.
Right. It's really important I talk to Dr. Poonjwani about
Okay.
these documents.
Okay.
Can you make sure to let him know that we're trying to connect with him?
I can do that. Absolutely.
There's my card. It's now out in the open. What needs to happen?
The powers that can enforce this kind of thing need to enforce it.
He has a license to practice medicine in the state of Colorado.
It needs to go away. He shouldn't have that license.
Attorneys for Dr. Poonjwani and the company that signs his paychecks declined our request for an on-camera interview. Instead, they elected to provide statements. Both said they did not want to address in the media the issues we've discussed and the emails we've uncovered. Instead, they will now make their cases in front of a jury. The civil case is scheduled for trial in early 2023. So now the question, how will the state's Board of Medical Examiners react to what you just watched? We intend to ask that question. I'm Chief Investigative Reporter Tony Kowaleski.
And Denver 7 Investigates has spent years digging into concerns over Clearview Behavioral Health, and you can find all of our reporting right now at denver7.com.
Aurora City leaders met behind closed doors tonight to talk about the hiring process for a new police chief.
And this comes amid growing frustration over the choice of 2 white men as finalists and a lack of input from residents in the process. Community members say the next police chief should reflect Aurora's diverse population. The Police Oversight Task Force is asking the city to start over and to give them a seat at the table.
We ask real questions. We can walk up to somebody and ask them how they feel about a certain thing. We want to get to the real soul of these people and get a candidate that will help our city grow. Our city is beautiful, and we deserve the best.
The city of Aurora has not said when it will name a new police chief. Both finalists met with city leaders last week.
All new tonight, Louisville residents rebuilding their homes after the Marshall Fire are getting a break from the city. City Council unanimously passed an emergency ordinance exempting people with rebuilding permits from the city's 3.65% use tax on construction materials. Nearly 600 homes in Louisville were damaged or destroyed by the Marshall Fire. And we checked last week. We found just 48 rebuilding permits have been issued in Louisville so far.
Also new, Wheat Ridge leaders are asking the Jeffco School Board to vote no next month on a plan to close 16 schools, including 3 in Wheat Ridge. The City Council tonight approved a letter asking the district to come back with a new proposal and to include public input. Several public meetings are scheduled before next month's vote, including 2 tomorrow night at Peck Elementary in Arvada and Mulholm Elementary in Lakewood.
Aurora City leaders will visit San Antonio, Texas tomorrow to study their approach to homelessness. Now, the trip will focus on a large campus that's run by a nonprofit with multiple services all under one roof. This comes a few weeks after Aurora officials visited Houston to look at the same thing. So they'll discuss tomorrow's trip at City Council meeting on October 17th.
History today as Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson takes her place on the U.S. Supreme Court, the first black woman to sit on the bench. She wasted no time joining in on debate over a case pitting the EPA against property owners over the scope of the Clean Water Act and the agency's ability to regulate waterways.
Why would Congress draw the coverage line between abutting wetlands and neighboring wetlands?
Not only did today's argument mark the debut of Justice Brown Jackson, it was also the first time the public has been allowed into the courtroom in more than 2 years.
And the Supreme Court says it will not intervene in Dominion Voting Systems defamation lawsuit against the founder of MyPillow. Mike Lindell appealed after a lower court ruled that the case against him can move forward. A Denver-based Dominion is suing Lindell and fellow Trump allies Rudy Giuliani and Sidney Powell over their false claims that Dominion rigged the 2020 election. The company is seeking $1.3 billion in damages.
Bad news, Broncos. 2 players lost to injury.
Both those guys are obviously very important to our team.
The latest from Dove Valley as the team tries to regroup after a tough loss in Vegas.
Plus, the thermostat war now getting more complicated.
It's either freeze or turn on the heat.
We hear from one XL customer on the changes made to keep her bills low.
For me, I can make the changes. But for other people who cannot make the changes, it's not a good idea.